gas technologies. And we have pioneered a method of commercially competitive. Go ahead. Sure. GLGT has pioneered a method of doing a commercially competitive carbon negative energy production. Long-term carbon negative, and we do this through a process called intermediate pyrolysis. And we're looking to commercialize that process. That was my 30 seconds. I wish I could catch it in later. The rest of this is going to be a push. So I have notes here for later. I'm going to get them on my way all the time here. So,
12 minutes.
Have you said go yet? You're saying go. Okay, so if I don't get something across to you today, it'll be this. Certainly all of you are familiar with disruptive innovation in some way or another. I believe that's what GLGT is sitting on, real disruptive innovation, and it's something that is, in some cases, quite staggering. So with that, one of the biggest problem statements that we have globally in energy production is that in order to save nuclear, in order to produce energy, we are mining hydrocarbons, whether it be oil from below surface or coal on surface or otherwise. And during the process of all this energy consumption, to include this cold air conditioning, we're liberating what's effectively long-term stored carbon, and we're liberating that into the atmosphere. Okay, and that liberation is starting to have potentially some obvious implications on our existence here on the planet, and we think that it's probably not a good long-term strategy. So with that, oils and hydrocarbons we're probably at or past peak oil right now, and so we're only going to have a nice economic issue coming up in the very short future. There's so much more of the global population that wants to achieve middle-class status, which means they want more meats, they want air conditioning, they want television and other things. There's more energy consumption, which means that we're going to be there's going to be more appetite for energy from these hydrocarbons and less of the hydrocarbons go around. So a few different things coming together. It's going to lead to some price inflation, and what I'm going to show you here, hopefully, is that I can kind of put a 1 over those attributes, invert them, right? And beyond that, this process has a byproduct that can refertilize land that has gone stagnant, and so agriculture can get better at the same time. So pyrolysis, or GLGT pyrolysis, we'll get into what's called intermediate. We have a process that is continuous. It's already patented. Patent was granted May of 2011, and it's exceptionally scalable. And this is for energy development and carbon sequestration. So we use, through these machines, and I'll show you an example of one, we use feedstock, and typically, let's call it renewable. So we have hydrocarbons that are hidden away in the planet. Now we have free carbon in the atmosphere, and trees and grass and all of these other things utilize that free carbon and make leaves, make grass, make wood, or whatever the case is. So now we can use those feedstocks to feed our machine along with some other important waste streams in order to create energy, right? And this energy can be instant in terms of electricity. It can be future in terms of liquid hydrocarbons. So we can store that energy. That's really the rub. So with that, the byproducts, we create a high-quality biochar. And Dr. Green, maybe you can get out a bag of it. We don't want to molest this too hard because it's charcoal. It's a biochar, and we'll make a mess out of ourselves. But we have a couple bags of it here. We didn't bring any or pyro oils with us because that's even a little bit more complicated. So in the process of doing this, we're doing some high-quality heat that we can use, and activated carbon could also be a portion of this byproduct. So maybe you'll trust me or not that in this baggie there's you can shake it around or hear it or whatever. This is long-term sequestered carbon, and I don't mean to get too political, but when we talk about having salt caves in Texas and we pump carbon dioxide in and then we call that long-term sequestration. It's crap. So you bury this in soil, and there's a whole other business model that goes along with this. This reactivates soil and makes soil decidedly more fertile. We can get into that as a side project. Beyond that, we already have a prototype machine in service at a UF facility and an agricultural research and education station up in Quincy. So Dr. Green, the inventor of this process, is a trained nuclear physicist, and he recognizes that a certain amount of energy in, like 1 unit of energy in fission, gets you 1,000 units of energy out. Okay? In other parts of nature, this is mimicked. And with biological materials, we can have the same, or we can have a similar ratio, but at a 1 to 20. So with this machine, if we give 1 unit of energy into it, we get 20 units of energy out of the machine. And so imagine as we get, well, when we get to these feedstock in the next slide, I'll show you. We do this in an oxygen-free environment, which changes chemistry as we know it because we're aerobic and we don't understand anaerobic atmospheres too well. We do it at high temperature. Instead of burning the material, we cook it. Burning implies oxygen, so for lack of better terms, we're going to cook it, and these pyrogases that come off of the materials facilitate the flame and the rest of the processes. I'll bring you there. So there is, when this baggie that we have here, if this is a pound of pyrochar, let's say it took 4 pounds of oak leaves in order to make this. So the carbon negative portion that we have of this is those 4 pounds of oak leaves provided when it broke apart a certain amount of methane, butane, butylene, all kinds of other gases that could be consumed or condensed as hydrocarbon fuels, and at the same rate, 25% by weight goes into long-term carbon sequestration. So, depending what your feedstock is, we might have some carbon. We have carbon, but we might have some mineral and metal salts and metals. We're dealing with destroying factory farm pig waste and bovine waste, and they feed potassium, magnesium, and other things into their diets, which of course will be in their leftover. So the machine that you'll see later, we feed some material in a hopper. This hopper has an auger, and it brings the auger through a kiln. The outside of this auger is a tube. It's not exposed to atmosphere. Inside it is actually a little bit of a vacuum. And this gets exposed to 1,000 degrees centigrade. And the energy in that heat heats up the tube and the material in the tube. And in doing so, rather than oxidizing, so these molecules are as long as they are, when you start vibrating them as hard as you do in an inert atmosphere, the molecules break apart into constituents. And that's how we get pure carbon off the backside. Everything else is volatilized. One of the first things you think of volatilization, water comes off of it first. And then different kinds of aromatics will come off until we finally have the base constituents. So we have this, it goes in this kiln. We have exhaust heat, high quality heat, 1,000 degrees centigrade, where we can do heat recovery on a generator. The pyrogases that are boiling off, so as I take my oak leaf and I break it into pieces, methane, butane, butylene are coming off of it. Those come in and come back into our firebox, and a portion of them are breathed into the firebox so that we can heat up the next material that's coming in up to this temperature. 1/20th of the energy coming off of this feedstock. 25% by mass is going as char in the hopper, which then can be used for several different agricultural or industrial purposes. Furthermore, 1 out of 20, so we're only using 1 out of 20, we can run a gas turbine off of this because we've got enough hydrocarbon gas such that we can consume it in a generator. And furthermore, we can even condense some of them and produce what we're calling pyrofuels. And these are, we'll get into it a little bit later, these are high quality fuels, they're not ethanols, they're not oxygenated fuels. Since there's no oxygen in it, we're deprived this of oxygen, the fuel quality, the hydrocarbon that comes off of this is decidedly more potent than what you get with other processes. So this is an example, 2 pictures of the same device. This is about 15 foot long, stands about 6 foot tall, 4 foot wide, something along those lines. See some other pictures. This is actually progression This is a version 3 of the device, version 6 of the device. This is the device that we have pictures of that's up in Quincy, and it's on a trailer right here about to get delivered to Quincy. So this is, and that was 2 years ago. So what do we have? That machine that I just showed you there is what we call an alpha. And that machine exists. Both the process and portions of the machine are covered in this patent number 7,947,000 and so on. And it's a particularly powerful patent because this intermediate pyrolysis process is something where industry has hit a block, and we have an innovation to get past that block. We're going to do several innovations on this. A beta is going to be, this is a research device. We're going to turn into a commercial device as a beta. We have other patent opportunities on that. Furthermore, the beta we're going to bolt an electric generator to. That's going to be a gamma. And finally, there's going to be a delta, and that's where we have carbon-negative liquid hydrocarbon fuel production. And we've got at least 5 patents to generate on that as well. And it sounds far-fetched, but it's for real. We've developed and seen all these. It's not theoretical. Company history is a Florida Chapter S, and several years ago, which led to a good portion of this development, DARPA gave $750,000 to the company in order to do some development. So I'm going to buzz past this. There are ways that you can take pig waste, human waste, oak leaves, whatever the case is, and make energy out of them. Right? We can put them biologically. We can have a methanol digester, a bug digester that brings methane off of the devices. We take that methane and we have energy with it. We can do the same thing with enzymes. Both of those are different processes, and they're, well, let's call them decidedly slower, but they're a little different. Pyrolysis, there's several methods. Fast and slow is typically in the pyrolysis industry. Those all anybody knows about. Fast creates oxygenated fuels. Slow facilitated the Iron Age. Right? If we didn't have charcoal back in the day, we wouldn't have been able to make iron because the higher heat that's in it. Finally, in pre-World War II and World War II, Fischer-Tropsch developed a way to take hydrogen and catalysts and carbon monoxide and create liquid hydrocarbons, but not today, not commercially viable. The price of oil has to get upwards of $175 a barrel before Fischer-Tropsch really becomes a player back in the market. So this is something I struggle with, and we're going to go through it quickly. Who needs a byproduct that revitalizes agricultural land? Who needs electricity for their refrigerators and air conditioning? Who needs liquid hydrocarbons fuel? It's difficult for me to identify legitimately what is my total available market. And so I chose 2 kind of low-hanging fruit. Agriculture in the U.S., and this is only 1% of the 1,200,000 farms that are factory-producing livestock, and municipal waste. And so between the 2 of those, I do a multiple and so on, and I come up with a ridiculous number. Billions of dollars that, of course, are waiting for an innovation on energy development. So this is something that, based on assumptions, changes very quickly, but any way you look at it, it's many hundreds of billions of dollars. So how are we going to get this done? We've got partners these people are calling us monthly saying, when can we have a machine? When can we develop a machine with you? How can we get that going? Europa Securities is finding finance for us. We have a demonstration machine in place. We have another guy waiting for a demo, and we've got EPA and other mechanical things in place.
For the record, we're just past 12 minutes, so just
Understood.
finish up at this one.
Management team that we can get to on the sidebar. My person, Dr. Green, sitting behind us. Jeff Stewart is a CFO. Jeff Stewart is a 20-year Wall Street finance guy. He had a couple seats on the New York Stock Exchange and a few things, and then some real good consultants in order to take care of some of the specifics. 3-year projections aren't necessarily that important. What's important right here is that we're breaking even about month 15, right? And my ask on that is, for one, we're looking at 6 jobs initially on this initial raise, and then 20 and 40 on this drive. Furthermore, I'm asking for $3 million in order to do patents, do the machine development as we talked about, finally the Delta development. Looking forward to fighting off acquisition as long as we possibly can. and potentially do a backdoor IPO or a front door IPO. So, and then a quick timeline here. This is over the course of 36 months of what's going to be happening month by month. It's something we can sidebar on. So that's what I have. Thank you very much for your minute and a half extra.
Good job.
Just out of curiosity, all of those future patents that you're talking about, are those already in process, or those you're just anticipating?
No, some of them are in process, and actually, majority we're anticipating. We believe we have the art, but until we do some of the basic R&D to verify that we're not full of it, that's when we will actually, that's when we'll submit. Right? In fact, in this patent discussion that was going on right there, was very interesting. Until next March, there's some other implications. So it was a good talk.
We understand just as a sidebar, but so just presume that you have a low cost, that is to say, waste stream of carbon source of some nature, right? Yes.
Let's take it. It's bovine or swine manure.
And you're picking that just because there's a lot of it out there.
And its energy density is decidedly high, and it's easily converted into both energy as well as gas and liquid fuels.
There's a lot of other streams that could be applied to this, but those are such high.
So there's in the state of North Carolina, we couldn't open up another swine farm right now without a permit. There's a moratorium on permits because the pollution of the way that it all goes is so bad. And this can easily mitigate it. One of our partners right there.
So that's the additional value of that is people would actually pay you.
Oh, there is pain in that industry. Same thing with bovine. There's pain that they can't get rid of this waste far enough. And with this, we can show that actually the farmer can actually make more money off of it because this will pay for the electricity that's coming off of this farm. And this is a viable commercial product that someone will buy from
Does it get rid of the smell?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Because the smell, believe it or not, is methane, and that's valuable, right? So when that methane fits in your nose, you're put off by it, and that's actually, we should be condensing that into a liquid hydrocarbon or burning it off in the generators. Yeah.
So actually, I was really excited at the beginning. I think your presentation style was good, the intro was good, and then I got really lost at the beginning of your presentation. I think you spent a lot of time talking about how bad CO2 is, and it seemed to be at too simple a level for me. I think you can cut right to the chase and say, I mean, everybody knows CO2 is bad, everyone knows we have too much of it, we have a carbon problem, and I would leave it at that.
Very good.
All to the extent, or bring out the analogy of your pig farm issue. You can't have another pig farm because the waste stream is so big and so bad, you just can't have it. Where I think you got lost from my perspective listening to us, what is the problem that we're solving? Is it, and your answer may be, and the reason I may be a little confused is because right now I think the presentation may be all, am I solving energy? Am I solving carbon sequestration? Am I solving waste stream reduction? Am I solving an ag output opportunity? And I think you have to you can identify all four, whatever it is up front, but then you've got to have to focus on one. For me, the one that I thought I was going to hear when I got the intro was a cheap energy production capability with a whole host of benefits. But if that, so that's what I was waiting to hear, and then I didn't see anywhere to say natural gas production cost per kilowatt hour, oil cost per kilowatt hour, coal, maybe.
Very good.
3 times lower price.
Very good. Very good.
And to my mind, this will almost live or die. With hearing 10 minutes, I understand this is a 10-minute snapshot. But on a 10-minute snapshot, I think this business will live or die based on whether you can produce energy cheaper than anyone else.
Understood.
Because carbon sequestration is nice, but it's hard to find someone who can pay for it today. And maybe there are.
And this just happens to be a byproduct. of something that's already inexpensive. Yeah.
This is great, but for ag, this is great, but I'm not going to believe a word of this until you show me a field trial. So it's fine to sort of throw away, but I think the key is focus on what you think is by far the most compelling output. And I think it's low cost energy production.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a levelized cost of energy, LCOE, that is referenced, and it depends on feedstock. So if we want to get a little bit more into technical, I mean, I've got ranges where we can produce fuels and so on, but it's hard to put.
No, but just give me one line. Pick it out.
I can produce this process can do carbon sequestration and produce diesel fuel at $2 a gallon.
So the issue that my first reaction to that is, so it's actually more expensive to produce diesel fuel this way than it is for me by fractionalizing oil.
No, diesel is $4 and $5. Diesel is $4, so that's half of the cost of diesel.
So I can produce diesel at half the price of the most efficient method today. And by the way, I
Sequester carbon.
But as much as I care about being green, unless it makes me money, most people don't do it. Unfortunately. So I can produce diesel at half the price anybody else can, and I have these other three benefits. And to my mind, that is the presentation. Now show me you can do it. So that's when you go into the background of the technology and the patent protection and everything else. And that's when you go into the expertise of the management process. And I will really drive on that. Yeah. So some other concerns I had as well when I went with that. The financials don't work in the presentation style that we have in there.
Okay.
And I would not, at this stage of the company's life, get into the fact that you have a Wall Street CFO and you might do a backwards IPO and stuff like that. So if anything, that to my mind doesn't, it doesn't add any value to me at this stage of your company's life. You're totally focused on building value and building a sustainable company. And bringing up a reverse IPO today, if anything, forcing you to ask more questions about the ability of you as a management team to build a company rather than think about an exit.
That's good. Understood. Okay.
I think economics one thing.
Very good.
Yeah, I agree. Opening out of the box, you had me, and then I think I got disconnected at the same time. You started talking about carbon, I was like, well, what is this? You know, is this a cheap fuel thing? So yeah, it sounds like I agree that you can almost just ignore the carbon sequestration issue entirely. Sell a story that tells me how you're going to make money, you know, why this is such a compelling make money thing. And I think you can do it in the context of an example. We can take, you know, a readily available stream of waste, such as and with that, we can produce energy at X dollars per therm or X dollars per
kilowatt, whatever unit.
Whatever. And because that tells me very quickly, unless you're lying, you got something that makes money. Okay. All the rest of that is just confuses me.
Understood.
So, but you know, the rest of it, I liked it. I think you had a good pitch, and your request for funds was good, I thought. Yeah, the big thing I would work on was just telling me how what you got makes money without. And there's stuff there that, you know, there's some compelling sidebar stories where you can't help but want for that guy trying not to get wrapped up on those if they don't tell their story in that first 10 minutes why I need to write you a check.
Got it.
The goal of that first presentation is to give me enough to make me come back. That's
mentioned one point in there about human waste. Is this something that you can put at any waste processing station, all of a sudden start generating electricity?
Yes.
It seems like that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, it would, because basically all the stuff that we have in our normal lifestyle is liberated carbon, and 25% of that by weight would be long-term sequestered carbon again, besides the electricity or energy that we'd be getting out of that energy.
So you're producing energy where there's a lot of people.
Yeah, in terms of, I'm very familiar with pig farmings, bovine, that waste stream is huge, and they will pay you to
And
take it away.
and it's valuable to us. It's particularly valuable, or I should say, to the farmer, it's particularly valuable because all that pain goes away.
I think the challenge you have is is more skepticism. Because I have seen numerous presentations, primarily actually to do with more from dairy cows than pigs. But, animal waste to energy
Yeah,
businesses. And so
understood.
that's why I would keep it simple, and I would say, you want to be able to convince them that you really can produce it cheaply. So it's credibility, that's credibility of the IP and credibility of the economics.
Very good.
That may be
Okay.
But I've seen all kinds of diagrams, pipes draped all around dairy farms, cow poop everywhere.
Yeah.
And you're just thinking, well,
Yeah. And roughly, I'll do this, and when I get on here, I'll do a little bit. You can do 50 kilowatts with $1 million on a pig farm or cow farm with methane production, and that same 50 kilowatts we're looking at sub $500,000 or about $350,000 for this business. So
maybe I've missed the time. Show me why what is it? I saw a management problem, but I didn't see the thing, and then we were sort of flying through that point.
Okay.
The relevance of that management team to this problem.
Okay. Can I show that to you now?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah, because I can't.
so,
I
you can't remember.
He was an MBA engineer, something.
Understood. So.
Serial entrepreneur. So,
Yeah.
so if I look at those three things,
Mhm.
the one I care about the most is the one you say last,
Okay.
and that's also the easiest one to put those two words around.
Okay.
And I don't want to say lie about, but they're not mean anything.
Oh, very good.
So if you really are a serial entrepreneur, tell me how good and why this is simply just your fourth run at it and you've been successful for the time, so this is a sign. Now I don't know what your background is, but really sort of push to why that team is so relevant to this business.
Understood. And do you care for the answer now, or it's duly noted anyway?
We don't need it.
Very good.
We're not writing a check.
I agree, but I also don't want to take other people's time.
So, well, so I just had a deal fall apart, where we raised $20 million that we couldn't spend because something fell through, and those investors happened to be interested in this, and it was also in renewable spaces and solar thermal here in Florida.
So you should be bringing out not only are you a serial entrepreneur, but you're a serial entrepreneur in this space or in the
Who's
renewable
raised
space
money.
that has raised 20 million. Well, that's you did it so far.
Well, yeah, it went in escrow and then we couldn't spend it.
But
Yeah.
make it directly relevant and make it that it's very clear that this is the same rodeo we've done it before.
Understood. And I can elaborate that on several other people on the team as well.
So, again, very nice presentation style. I think sometimes when we're so close to stuff, you start to get caught.
Absolutely, in the
weeds
details, absolutely.
A little bit, and I don't think it was necessary here. Reiterate the point that I think you need to differentiate yourself from the others to avoid that skepticism. Really, in like one sentence or two, we've heard so much about all of these companies that are doing this and what makes you different. And then I would go back to the basics. Again, go to Simplant. What's the problem? And yours is you've got so much opportunity. you know, you can go in so many directions, but I really think you need to help your audience focus on, here's the initial problem that we're going to target, here's the solution we're going to use, and here's who's going to pay for it and how we're going to reach that.
Let me ask a question, I'm not even sure where it's going to go, but you said the relatively short term, you had, I think you said 6 jobs. You mentioned 6 jobs. Are those units you are going to produce and sell for somebody else's operation?
So there'll be 6 office jobs, and then cost of goods sold is yet more labor. So we're not sure that those jobs are going to be. I guess they'll be created because people will be doing them.
Okay, let me ask a different question. Are you going to be selling systems for somebody else to use?
Yes.
So you're not going to be creating installations and operating installations.
Yes, we are. Right, or at least there's substantial opportunity to do so. So, and I didn't bring that up because it's not clear, and the investor will guide us. We want to get into this, or we want you to stay out of that. And so I didn't bring it up.
Because both of those are going to have a significantly different cash flow.
Understood.
Diagram. I mean, and you could potentially, because if you had a unit right now where you could say this unit could be installed on a big farm, you could probably figure out exactly how much some big farmers would be willing to pay for that thing. But that's a whole different game from we're going to install this in municipality and we're making money by some other reason.
And for the purpose of this presentation, I did not do the former. I only talked about the latter, and that's selling the equipment. There's a whole micro-utility model that goes along with operating these assets, that really builds the business better. But that's not what that's not how I wanted to frame this conversation.
But I think it would be worthwhile, because someone like me is going to ask the question, to say, we have 2 possible business
venues,
or 2 separate businesses even that are going to come out of this. One is we're going to produce and sell infrastructure to do this, and it's an entirely separate business is going to be operating these for revenue. Because you may want to have separate companies, they say the cash flows are quite different, the investments are quite different, and I mean maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, but you should at least have an answer to that. Okay, we're looking at both of those opportunities to make money.
Understood. And in this initial $3 million ask, that's not. I need to have before I can go out and get the $100 million in order to do a micro-utility. I've got to have hours on machines that are hooked to the grid and taking care of business.
$3 million is going to get you where?
$3 million gets me to market with everything besides the fuel. Yes. Yeah. And working capital to help me do it.
Okay, so that's a critical thing. Because $3 million is not going to get you the unit that you're selling and operating yourself.
That's why we didn't talk about it.
Okay, but I think it's valuable to say, because everyone knows that $3 million is only the first time you're going to go to the well.
Understood.
You're going to go to the well again. So your cash flow is going to be a crucial question. I want to know how much I'm going to be diluted later on. You can say, look, we can do this. This is going to fund us the first couple of years. We're going to be making money when we do 12 months, but ideally, with some of this capital is going to be funding an operating unit.
And this answers a little bit more specifically the model that we had in the previous business. One of the reasons the Wall Street guy is important on this is that in the same way that if the 7 of us owned a 747 together, we would lease it out to American Airlines or equivalent and get rent checks on that 747. And the same model can be done with energy equipment like this.
So the challenge I think you have there when someone says Wall Street guys are important for you, there's something that says really pay the dollars and more financial risk. I mean, what is one of these things cost money?
So the device that you see operating, $50,000. The device that produces electricity, roughly $350,000.
So that's not a big number. I would just be cautious about telling people's mind to capital intensive risk. Capital intensive risk.
Okay.
Because $350,000 is not capital intensive.
infrastructure like this.
Yeah, yeah, you don't even go there.
Yep, and that's why we didn't go there in the 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, what you can do is produce electricity in a product that will multiply itself at a relatively low carbon intensity and solve a bunch of other problems. And I would really focus on
That's
that.
clear enough for
And
me.
as an early stage investor and have different, you're producing, I understand there are things you may do down the road. But if you have decided that you've plotted all the way from 1 to step 8 right now, and that's absolutely it.
It's pretty sure.
That makes me not know. You can tell me that when I get to step 3, there are multiple paths. Who knows where we'll go, and maybe we'll do all of them, maybe we'll do one of them, but laying out the potential path makes sense. I would not be categorical. One thing, by the way, and you're not agreeing, yes, as an investor, when I see you as the academic and the technical guy and the chairman of the company, that makes me nervous. With no disrespect to you. I would like the chairman to be a business guy. Because the chairman is not dealing with technical stuff, they're dealing with long-term business things. And the fear I would have is that now my chief technical guy also actually wants to control the company as well. And that makes me nervous as an investor. It's your company, you can do that. I used to say that for when you go out for presentations. With no disrespect.
Yes, no, I thought you did very well. Very good.
So, and this is, I can't tell you how exciting it is. So,
Is this UF technology?
so Dr. Green is a former UF professor, but he developed this after he retired.
Well, really, I presented the initial thing through the university, but they were concentrating on medical things,
Yeah, it's good stuff like
not on energy then.
this.
Yeah, but I would think there's a ton of
I was the patent committee when Gated Reed came through.
That's, and hopefully you caught, I mean, the company before I got here, $750,000 car. I mean, that's a big deal, and you're absolutely right. There's tens of millions of dollars for just biodiesel development, right? And there's no dilution associated with any of that, and it's fantastic.
Well, and I don't know how familiar you are with SBIR, but we just had a workshop last Friday on innovation. And the new rules that came out,
The energy field
I'm
hasn't
not sure energy is one of them, but there are 3 or 4 agencies that are now allowing you to go right to phase 2. You know, before you could do phase 1 and
Yep.
now you can go right for the 2 million. Were you aware of that, Richard?
That's right.
The new SBIR legislation, there's a handful of agencies that,
You go through phase 1, phase 2.
you can go right for phase 2. Not all of them, they're experimenting, and they're still, as you know, they make these statements, and then they write the rules a year later as to how you actually execute on them. But, to me, that's good.
But if you have, I mean, I don't know where you're sitting with a Delta program, if you already have a Delta program, I don't know if that qualifies you for
Any additional,
That was phase 2, though, at 750,000, right?
yes.
Yeah, I think that-
but does that, I guess that doesn't show up any silver or STTR stuff, does it? So,
Not to my knowledge. Yeah, but that being said, when the military forces are paying substantial 4 barrel of oil or some jet fuel, there's an active path in the military, among other places, on how do they offset buying from places where you can't secure those resources and then having the resources in-house.
now we just have to think a lot.
Well, actually, pig farm isn't necessarily the
They would be able to stand the smell.
So yeah, there's all kinds of opportunities.
Are you here in Kingston?
Now I am in City. I moved here not that long ago, less than a year ago, from Raleigh, North Carolina. Didn't enjoy it. So loving games. Yeah, my wife's a professor at UF, and that's what brought us down here. And the factory, one of the factories that we couldn't buy with that $20 million is in part of Florida about now.
The 20 million, by the way, was in a different company, or was that
It was different.
Great.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you again. Wonderful. Don't forget about
Does it
Thank you.
Are you an Englishman?
Yes, I've been here.
I got to know
Mid-Atlantic at this point.
John Wyatt. Introduce months ago or something like
Very
that.
good.
We present, in the dealing with the DARPA program, have you heard of kinetics?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
They kind of were the closest to what we were doing.
Oh, right.
Everybody else in the military disposal of waste was using a different technology. They were, and we were the only ones. And our project monitor said, well, why don't you get together with kinetics? That's a 19,000 man organization, and we were a 3-man organization. I wasn't quite ready.
Well, there's some benefit there. If you can get them to treat you nicely, there's real benefit. But if you can marry the good and the good, there's some real benefit to that because it's really hard to three-person entity to have the credibility of selling to the military, all kinds of questions. And also not only that, to know how the procurement system works within the DoD is an art to itself. And the key is can you get them to treat you with respect, challenge.
Yes. Yeah, both this one and
And we got the
the last one.
20,000 ton
And
equivalent PMT.
Yeah.
so in short order, I might have an office actually, if you have it available, right? And to include maybe a lab space.
At the innovation.
Depending on, I know that they were getting sucked up quickly because it's a great facility.
We've got one lunch, we're going to try to get some people, so if you're,
I'll get on the list that way.
I would get an application in, you can always like, pass it over to the, at least then you know,
Okay?
But if
So it would be proper etiquette then to say, no, I'm not ready yet, give it to the next guy.
60
I do that, but if you're looking
and
at labs, a lot of the labs in offices, like, if that's all you're looking for, then we're in good shape, because we have a fair amount of those yet. It's just the individual offices.
So the end of it, that's neat, but then you can imagine that we've got some, not basic science, but we've got all kinds of stuff that we can do, table size, that those labs are just awesome for, especially when it comes to the hoods and everything else that are already figured out. And those are, when you go out for the flex space, those are counting.
Unless you go to the seminar and.
Well, I have to build it myself. I get a flex space, I have to bring all that stuff in. Yeah, and then I have to permit it, and I have to do all that other thing. It's substantial. So thank you very much.
Well, they established this concept 7 years ago. I've been pursuing it 16 years. Waiting for somebody to...
Perfect.
I want to give this to you
Okay.
and to you because the Sierra Club has been generally anti-thermal. And this was written by...
Oh, very good. So nice to see you again. All right, you take care.
So you